Right, if everyone could please head to their seats, we'll get started in just a second. And for anyone who did not get their voting slip, please go to Linda in the back to receive that. That was surprisingly easy. All right. Well, I'm not necessarily always the most verbose, but especially not today, as you can probably tell from my voice. Glad I have a microphone, though. So I do want to just welcome you all here today. Thank you for coming. Thank you for making this event happen. We're glad to have you with us. And just a heads up, we will be having a vote of acclamation later, so if you haven't gotten your slip from Linda, she's in the back, and you can get that from her. So please make sure to do that just so that we can get you all counted. I do also want to welcome our guests today. So we have Madam Pauline Hunter of Hunterston. She is Chief of the Name and Arms of Hunter. Thank you for being here. We also have Ross M. McEwen, Esquire. He is the Shinaki to the McEwen. My Gallic's not the best, but I was told that's how you say it, so hopefully I'm right on that one. I believe we also have joining us virtually Robert Curry, Esquire. He is commander of the name Curry, so welcome to Robert. And then, excuse me, we also have our supervising officer from the Lord Lion, Colin C. Russell, Esquire. He is the Butte Pursuivant to the Lord Lion, King of Arms. So thank you for being here as well. And behind me we have the Butte's banner, as well as the Chiefly banner. So with that, I would like to welcome not John Logan, but Stanley John Logan to do an invocation to start us off this morning.
Good morning. Would you join with me in prayer? Dear God, thank you for giving us this opportunity to gather here today. Thank you for protecting us as we travel and providing this opportunity to meet, learn, and to grow. As we begin our family conference, we dedicate this time to you. We pray for the presenters, the attendees, and the volunteers who all made this conference possible. In all that we do, thank you for blessing our time together. Help us make new connections and gain wisdom to do the work that you've set before us here today. We give you, Father, the glory and the honor. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. And at other times I would be calling him Dad, but today he's Stanley. And now I would like to invite Colin up just to give opening remarks as he sees fit. So for those of you who don't know, Colin's been putting a lot of work into this process, meeting with myself, also the others planning this whole event, like Linda, Kevin, my mom, Joanne. And so we're very thankful to have him with us today, supervising us, making sure that we're able to do this in proper line with what the Lord Lion expects, so that we're able to make this event a success. So thank you, Colin, and here is a mic.
Thank you, Caleb, for your words of welcome. Technology and I don't go on, so don't worry if the microphone goes off. It'll be my fault and not the microphone's. First of all, can I, on behalf of the Lord Lion, welcome you to Scotland. You have travelled from all airts and parts, as they say in Scotland. We have people from, now correct me if I get this wrong, Portugal? Yes. Stand up and be counted. Stay standing. So, stay standing. Portugal, New Zealand, Canada, England, no. Scotland, America, stay standing. Anywhere else I've missed? Canada, Northern Ireland, Belfast, and anyone else that I haven't mentioned? France? So everyone should be standing. Correct? So turn to the person on your right or your left or behind you and offer them the hand of friendship. Remain seated. Please stand. Now, as a family and friends, can I bring you to order? Firstly, on behalf of the Lord Lion, can I send you his warmest greetings? He apologises that he can't be here this morning. That's why he sent me, and that's why he sent me from day one. Unfortunately, he is a very busy man and cannot be at every clan gathering and event. I spoke to him on Wednesday evening on a Zoom call, and he was telling us that on Monday of this incoming week, he's in London in the morning, and he travels back to Scotland in the afternoon, and then he travels to Inverness at night. But when he's in Scotland in the early afternoon, he's taking part in the rehearsal here in the fair city of Edinburgh. He sends good wishes to all members of Clan Logan and hopes that this convention achieves the goal it's set out to. Lord Lang Inns of Lerny says in his book, The Tartans of the Clans and Families of Scotland, a chiefless clan is like an orphan family. It's an imperfect group or an imperfect family. And unfortunately, that is what many of the clans have. They are slightly imperfect because they have no one to lead them. Today, we take a small step in rectifying that, because I believe, and I'll be corrected by the historians in the room, that for over 223 years, near enough, your family has been without a chief. Despite intensive research by your heritage officer, past heritage officer John Logan, Major Banks, and other members of your family, you have been unable to find a true bloodline chief. Where the hereditary chief cannot be identified, a clan or family is without a chief, there is a process known as a family convention, at which a commander can be appointed by the family and ratified by the Lord Lion. So to try to rectify this, on the 4th of October 2023, the Clan Logan Society International, you, as a family, as a body, you petitioned the Lord Lion, seeking to have, now I can never pronounce this name, even though I'm a Scotsman, a Dirpin? Ross? Thank you, a Dirpin. And requested to appoint a commander to Clan Logan. The first step in the legal process of appointing a chief who is not of the bloodline. So after considering the petition, the Lord Lion agreed to the setting up of this family convention, and that was agreed on the 2nd of February 2024, where he appointed myself, Bute Pursuant, to serve as your supervising officer. So the purpose of the convention, as you know, is to appoint a chief, to appoint a commander who will lead the family in the search for a chief. So where do we go from there? Over the past 18 months, I have worked very closely with your executive to help bring that to fruition. And today we gather here to elect a commander who will lead the Clan Logan family in your search for your chief. Interesting. You all know what your crest is, don't you? What is it? A human heart. pierced with a nail. And it's very interesting that they gather here today, just before Ascension Sunday. Our Lord and Saviour was crucified with similar nails. And he had a family of Christians, and you are a family of Logans, joined together in faith, joined together in loyalty, joined together in friendship and in love. I pray that we will all feel that love, and you will feel that love as a family gathered here today, and throughout the next 2 or 3 days. I was talking to some of you last night and some earlier on this morning, and I was told that you went to the lovely church yesterday. You all had a wonderful religious, spiritual experience. Am I correct? Yes. And then half an hour later you went to the pub for another type of spiritual experience. So as your supervising officer, I have to question that. Oh, let me think, is that right? Nothing wrong with it. Fun, friendship and laughter. Our main function today is to appoint the commander. But the main function of that commander is to seek out and encourage others to look for your hereditary chief. So I pray that with all your support, his endeavours will be fruitful in the years to come. This is valour of my ancestors. You sit here this morning as people who have a long history. Your ancestors look down from above on you, hoping that you carry the heart forward in love and friendship. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin, and I really appreciate that reminder. You know, as the heritage officer who was kind of getting everyone together, seeing where everyone stood in terms of who they would support as the choice for our commander, it was really you all who made this an easy process on me. So I thank you all for that. You know, there wasn't any fighting or anything like that. No lambasting me. At least not to my face. So thank you, really, for making this as smooth a process as possible. It made it much easier on me. And next up, we have James C. Logan, and he will be talking about the Chief Restoration Project, which started, I believe, in 2002. He can correct me on that. Just a brief background on James. Same name as my grandfather, and they both lived in San Diego. What do you know? So, James has a master's degree in electrical engineering. I like that as well. We must get along. He served 10 years in the U.S. Naval Reserves as an enlisted petty officer, over 4 years active duty as a U.S. naval officer, and then over 26 years as a civilian electrical engineer for the Navy Laboratory in San Diego. He's earned several prestigious awards. He has co-authored 5 technical books and 3 computerized books, all on antenna modeling techniques. And I have to say, my antennas class was my least favorite, but he must get it more than I do. So he's also co-authored over 60 engineering papers, published in professional journals and government publications. Then as for Clan Logan, he became the 2nd president of Clan Logan Society International and currently is our 1st president emeritus. He's authored 2 booklets about the history and folklore of Clan Logan. He plays the bagpipes, he's learning to speak Gaelic, and he also has a love of sailing. So actually, this is a pretty fun fact. In 1979, James and his wife, Virginia, sailed their 33-foot sailboat from San Diego to Hawaii and then decided to come all the way back. So not only that, after retiring, James built from scratch a 44-foot sailing ketch. So with that, I welcome James Logan.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here all the way from California. It was quite an experience getting here in more or less one piece. Thanks to my friend Pat Goodman, who's the president of the House of Scotland in Balboa Park in San Diego. So she's representing that Scottish community, Scottish people of Scottish descent that have contributed to the American culture. And so she's here as an observer and my close friend. My wife, Virginia, was unable to come due to health problems, but here we are. And trying to keep things short and not belabor these few points, I was asked to speak about the origin of the society and the project for the search of the chief. So as you may know, the arms of Clan Logan were recorded by our chief back in 1673, and the crest used by the Clan Logan Society International is similar to the one shown here, except we've slanted the spike at an angle in an attempt to look a little bit unique among the many societies. The first Clan Logan Society was founded in 1913 by Thomas Logan, Esquire, Provost of Patrick in Glasgow. And unfortunately, that first society did not survive World War I. The present Clan Logan Society International was established in 2002 to carry on the efforts of the original society. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to read all of the aims and objectives of the society, but they're pretty much the same as the first society, but the important one is the one that brings us here today, and that's to reestablish Chief of Name Arms of the Logan. Next slide, please. I have to have a few crib notes here. So the society leadership, I think of note, is our first president was the late Vernon E. Logan of North Carolina, serving from the onset, 2002 through 2018. During this time, the first vice president was Frank Logan from Montreal, Canada, serving from 2002 to about 2009. At that time, I was promoted to become the second vice president of the society. And when Vernon passed away in 2018, I became the second president, and I had the privilege of choosing and selecting Kevin Logan from Michigan as my vice president. And in 2022, when my own health started to fail, I didn't want to be another case like Vernon Logan, to be very sick and unable to really perform the duties of president. So I bowed out and passed the wand on to Kevin, and he's serving as our current president. And he has appointed Linda Street Ellie as a fourth vice president. And all of this is because the society didn't, according to the bylaws, didn't have sufficient numbers to hold an election in order to meet the requirements, so it was done through appointment from the board. During my 20-year involvement in the Clan Logan Society, I served in just about every position as a chairman of any ad hoc committee that came along. So I've served as for many years as a newsletter editor, short stint as the treasurer. I was a membership chairman at one point. I was merchandise and funding, and which was absolutely necessary to keep the search for the chief going. And all of this time I was on the advisory board, which reviewed the work of our genealogists in working in searching for the chief. Next slide, please. And this is Vernon E. Logan. I had the privilege of serving with him for many years. Towards the end, he was not able to do his job, so I was really acting as president and vice president at the same time for a while till his passing. Next slide, please. We owe the Chief Restoration Project to the late Peter Logan, and this is Peter Logan and his wife Margaret, and Peter did a lot of the initial work. He had, I don't know, 4 or 5 volumes of material developed over many years, and with the help of John Marchbanks, who got involved with it, they did a pretty good job of doing it. When in 2015 Peter passed on, and John Marchbanks took over and proceeded to organize and sort through and make sense out of the tons of material that Peter and John had produced over the years. So this is really one of the key people in the search for our chief. Next slide, please. So the Chief Restoration Project, as we know it, extended from 2002 to 2015 under Peter Logan of Hassington, and then when Peter passed away, John took over. Next slide, please. One of the projects that was key to not only the Chief project, but also to try to entangle more interest amongst the Logans in our Logan, Scottish Logan heritage, was this project, the pre-1800 Logan DNA project. And what they did basically is establish that it's a main tree of Logans, and all the there's 4 separate trees of Logans that didn't seem to be related through DNA. In my case, I'm limb 1 on the tree. Next slide, please. So in limb 1, I've shaded in the 2 yellow spots. The one on the far left is John Logan, born in the Ulster Plantation in 1699. That's my 8th great-grandfather. And he apparently had land holdings in Ulster because he had a sizable estate that he sold off when he immigrated to the colony of Connecticut, and bought up farmland in Connecticut in about 1735. So, and that really is a clue to where to look for my ancestors. And the DNA project points to Ayrshire in western Scotland as the location of our family. I'll go into that with anybody on the side who wants to talk about it. I won't spend much time on that. But next slide, please. Or, for some reason, I skipped one, but it's all right. On the left, shows my wife in younger days, and I'm on the right. And we were at the San Diego Highland Games, and we were playing around with the junior level cavers and having a good time. So we really got into the Scottish folklore at that point. Okay, next slide. And this is the 44-foot ketch that I built after I retired from the Navy lab. And I built this from scratch. And anybody interested in it, I have more pictures. I brought a lot of boring stuff about my family, but you might be interested, so I'll refer you to that later on when we have the time to look through it. So that's about it on my side.
Are we back? We are back. So, thank you, James. I myself hope to have a limb someday. We're still working on that. The Y-DNA test has been going on for about 3 months now, so we'll see if they ever get back to me, but I just really want a limb. So, oh, thank you, Kevin. Yes. Well, and I'm sure the rest of my family does too. So next up we have our keynote speaker. That will be John Logan Marchbanks. Now, I'm the current heritage officer, but he is the man that I took over for. And no one really warned me that I was taking over for a legend, so it's a real hard legacy to live up to, and I'm doing my best. But some background on John. John was born to Scottish parents in the island of Cyprus during World War II. He was raised in Khartoum, Sudan, then, and came home to Scotland at the age of 7. He went to the University of Cambridge and graduated in 1965, actually the same year that the Lord Lion recognized his father as Chief of Name and Arms of Marchbanks. At that time, John's father gifted him with having his own arms registered with the Lord Lion as a cadet. And in fact, John's elder brother is now Chief of the Name and Arms of Marchbanks. So after Cambridge, he worked for, I skipped a sentence in my bio. It'll be okay. So after Cambridge, John worked for 8 years in the agricultural service industry in Scotland, but he then headed back to Africa, to the Zambian Department of Agriculture. And he met his wife there, Andrea. She's from Yorkshire, and was working as a midwife in a village hospital in northern Zambia. From there, he had an interesting career in Africa and Asia with the UK government's Commonwealth Development Corporation, or CDC. That's now called the British International Investment. And he worked to stimulate economic growth in third world countries. His last overseas post was as the CDC's country manager for India, and he later returned to the London headquarters to the post of Director of Public Affairs. Now, by that point, John's kids were growing up, and having been at boarding school in Scotland while their parents were overseas, John and his wife decided to get a house in Berwickshire, near where John's grandmother, Molly Logan, came from. At that point, he used the opportunity to get stuck into family history again. You know, when his father granted those, or I should say sponsored him, he can correct me on the verb, to get his arms registered. That really sparked an interest in him for family history. And so he spent a great deal of time working to identify who could rightfully claim to be the next chief of name and arms of Logan. Now, John does live in England now. He decided that it was fair to live in his wife's country for a bit. So they moved to Devon, but still visit Scotland regularly, and most of his family is here. And with that, it is my pleasure to welcome John Marchbanks.
First slide, please. Well, as you know, I've been with the Clan Logan Society for many years. I think it started in 2000, the year 2000, when I took retirement from my overseas job and returned to Scotland, and realised that the Clan Logan Society was about to start up again, and contacted Vern and Logan very early on to express my interest. I don't know when I was actually made a member, but it was in the early days. And I realised that the interest I had in heraldry, particularly in genealogy, would be relevant to the work that Peter Logan had already started on looking for the Logan chief. And Peter and I worked together for a number of years looking for the chief, and the whole purpose of what we were doing was to try to find the man who could wear that cap badge on the screen behind me. You see the difference between most of us, our cap badges, and that one is that the circlet around the heart is not a strap and buckle. It doesn't have a buckle at the base and the strap going through it. It is a complete circlet. And the number of feathers behind the badge is 3, and that indicates that the wearer of that badge and those feathers is the chief of name and arms of, in this case it would be Logan. So, next slide please. Once we have found the chief, then he can join this august body. This is an assembly of the Standing Council of Scottish Chiefs, who had gathered together in St Giles Cathedral in 2013 to celebrate or commemorate one of the worst defeats in Scottish history, the Battle of Flodden in 1513. I don't know what it is about us Scots, but we celebrate things that were really... There were 10,000 Scots killed on that day, including the king, who fell in battle and whose body was taken by the English. Anyway, that's an aside. They gathered for that purpose, and if you look at the picture, the man on the left-hand side of the picture, grinning at the camera, is my brother, the chief of Clan Marchbanks, who sends his greetings to this gathering and wishes the Logans well in achieving the ultimate objective of finding a chief through the appointment of a clan commander. Next slide, please. The starting point for many Logans looking at family history is this book, which was written by Major Logan Hume, who lived in Berwickshire, and he did an absolute power of work in looking up all sorts of different branches of the family, and he prepared this book and published it in, I think it was 1934. And most of us today rely heavily on the internet for searching for all sorts of stuff. But can you imagine the time and trouble it took to try and develop the genealogy of a whole clan in the days before computers had even been thought of, let alone all the internet marvels we have today. So Major Logan Hume did a very good job, but as anyone who starts to examine it very closely can find, there are a number of quite serious mistakes in the book. And one of those mistakes concerned the origins of the Logans of that ilk. Now, in Scotland, the suffix of that ilk means of the same in Latin, de eodem, and it means, let's say, Logan would be Logan of Logan, so it meant the name of the chief and the name of the chiefly lands were the same. For example, the original lands of Marchbanks are a small parcel of land in Annandale in Dumfriesshire. In the case of Logan, it's a bit more complicated what the original lands were. Could I have the next slide, please? I don't know if you can see names written on this map of Scotland, but looking up in the north, just north of Inverness, you see the word Drumdurfit. That was the location of the northern or Highland group of Logans who gave rise ultimately to the MacLennans. There's another myth dismissed. The MacLennans originally claimed that the Logans were a sect of the MacLennans. It's actually quite the reverse. The MacLennans are derived from the Logans. There's no evidence of any genealogical connection between the Logans of northern Scotland and the Logans of the Lowlands. But we all share the same name, Logan, and therefore that's less important than the fact that we are regarding ourselves as a group and a clan and one name, one serving one God under one king. Looking further down the map, you see on the right at the bottom, on the tip of Scotland, on the Rins of Galloway, there is the Logan estate. Some of you, I think, have visited the Logan Botanic Gardens on your trip. That's on the Logan estate. And there is a barony of Logan there that has been held by the McDowell family since around about 1320. They've held it a long time. We don't know, it's very difficult to find concrete sources that far ago, but we don't know whether that was originally held by somebody of the name of Logan. It's quite possible that it was, and it was then passed through inheritance or sale or something to the McDowells. Anyway, they've held it for a long time since then. And sometimes people get misled by that and think, well, our origins are down in the southwest. But in fact, most of the Logans that we know of today come from Ayrshire originally. If you look slightly north of the Logan marked on the Rins of Galloway, you can see the word Logan and just above it the word Grugar. Logan is at a place called New Cumnock in Ayrshire, and Grugar is about 12 miles to the northwest of that. And both of those areas were held by Logans for a very long time. The Logans of Grugar, one of their number, married the heiress of the Laird of Wresselrig and became Logan of Wresselrig. I think, but I don't know, that the Logans of Grugar were a cadet branch of the Logans of that ilk. And that means that the Logans of Wresselrig were a cadet branch of the Logans of that ilk through their inheritance at Grugar. I hope that my successors in office will be able to try and prove some of these things, but one of the interesting things is evidenced in the heraldry. The final name on that map, Wresselrig, many of you will know where it is. It's a village that's been swallowed by Edinburgh now, but it was a very valuable estate because it in fact controlled the access of Edinburgh to the sea. It was the swathe of land between Edinburgh and the port of Leith, and therefore whoever held Wresselrig held great sway in Scottish politics. And that ultimately was the reason for their downfall when the Gowrie conspiracy was concocted against them. We have another lovely Logan story of when the bones of the last Laird of Wresselrig were exhumed and brought before the Court of Session and tried for treason on trumped-up charges. I wonder what the current world would think of somebody being brought to trial 3 years after they died. Anyway, next slide, please. You've heard from Bute Percival this morning, who's representing the Lord Lion here, and the reason that the Lord Lion is involved and is indeed absolutely key to this whole proceeding is that the Lord Lion, through the Main Act of 1672, which authorises him to register all the coats of arms in the country and various other things, he is the authority who controls heraldry, and through that, genealogy, because you can't demonstrate inheritance to arms unless you can prove a genealogical connection to the last person who had those arms. Now, after the Lord Lion Act was promulgated in 1672, there was a period of 7 years in which all the people in Scotland who had coats of arms were expected to register them with the Lord Lion. By that time, the Logans of Wresselry had ceased to exist as a family, in effect, but the Logans of that ilk, the Logans of Logan, the chiefly line, did register their arms. It didn't mean that that's when the arms started, it means that they had already existed, but were put in the registers at that date. There were many armorials in Scotland before that date, and you'll see from one of the later slides. The other aspect of this slide is on the top left. You see one of the previous Lord Lions. I think he was about 3 or 4 years numbers back, more than that, maybe 5 ago. He was the Lord Lion in charge when my father proved his claim to be the chief of Marchbanks, and who granted me arms as a cadet, a junior branch of Marchbanks. In the centre is the coat of arms of the Lord Lion, and this is a delineated coat. In other words, it's divided down the middle. What is in heraldic terms called the dexter side is, as you look at it on the left, the actual arms of the Lord Lion, and on the sinister side, as you look at it on the right, the arms of the present Lord Lion, Dr. Joseph Morrow, whose picture is on the right. And you see that his dress is quite different from that of the Sir Thomas Innes of Learning. I've done that to illustrate that the Lord Lion is not only the chief herald of the country, he's also a judge and can sit in judgment, and it's called the Lord Lion Court for a very good reason. He is the presiding officer of that court, and it has the power of law. One interesting thing, if he finds, for example, that you have illicitly used somebody else's arms, he can impound the items upon which you have put those arms, whether it's a silver salver or a gold chalice or a postage stamp or whatever, and take it off from you. But the present Lord Lion, Joseph Morrow, is a very effective person in his job. He is extremely erudite, very approachable, very nice person, and he is very keen on developing the Scottish clan system and everything that goes with it. And that's why he is keen when a clan without a chief decides to come together and try to move towards one. Next slide, please. I spoke about the registration of the Logan arms in the period between 1672 and 1679, I suppose it would be. You can see on the left-hand side of the picture, you can't obviously read it, it's obscure, but that's the page of the register upon which the Logan arms are registered. And I've outlined that in red and magnified it below. It's still a bit hard to see, so I've transcribed it on the right. Now, one of the interesting things, for many years, it was assumed that the passion nails in the Logan arms were sort of steely colour, what we would call proper, or as it would be in nature. Sorry, that was me. But in fact, if you read that carefully, you can see that the passion nails, as well as the heart, are all bright red. And next slide, please. Just after, well, not just, 50 years after the period in which all the arms were registered, a book was published by Nisbet, who had been Lord Lyon. He published a book on Scots heraldry. It's widely regarded as authoritative, and it has a set of plates at the back, and they're all inscribed in what's called the Pectrasanca method. The vertical hatchings being red and the cross hatchings being black and so on. There's a way of determining colours from the way in which the etching is made. And you can see enlarged on the same page, he has the arms of Logan of that ilk at the bottom there, and above them the arms of Logan of Burncastle. Burncastle is a descendant, or I'm not saying that on 100% provable authority, but it's widely accepted that he's a descendant of Logan of Wresselry. If we go on to the next slide, you can see the Logan of that ilk arms drawn for me by John Hamilton Gaylor, and they are clearly a yellow or golden shield with a red heart pierced by these three passion nails. And the next slide, please. And these are the arms that were recorded in, I think, the Seaton Armorial 1591 for Logan of Wresselry. And you can see that the Logan section of the arms, that's what they call the first and fourth quarters, the top left and the bottom right, are gold with three black. The heraldic term is piles. These are things that originate at the top of the shield and go down to the bottom. And they're conjoined in point at the base. And the other arms are the arms of Wresselry, very similar to and sometimes confused with the arms of Dalrymple. But looking at the Logan arms, you can see that they're not passion nails, they're piles, and there's no heart in there. And I think that's an important fact. And I have found no evidence anywhere of a heart in the arms of Logan of Wresselry. And you might even have noticed, those of you who were in the Wresselry Kirk yesterday afternoon, that the arms on the window, which was installed by the Pennsylvania Logans in 1982, I think it was, those arms did not have a heart. They were the arms of Logan of Wresselry. Now, the conclusion I would draw from that is that the heart, let's move on to the next slide. Let's explain the heart a little bit. This is this story, or the tale that has come down to us, of Black Douglas leading a group of his close friends and associates to carry the Bruce's heart. Some say to the Holy Land, some say to fight against the Saracens. Whatever the original intention was, the heart ended up in Spain, where the Scottish knights fought a battle with a group of Saracens and were defeated. The heart was brought back to Scotland by one of the surviving knights, likely to have been a Cathcart, and two Logans died on that, are often described as brothers. I'm using sort of described as and phrases like that because, like all myths of 500 years more old, there's sometimes more legend than fact in there, and you have to be very careful. But it's indisputable that two Logans did accompany the Douglas on his expedition with the Bruce's heart. And what you can see the arms of Douglas on his shield there, consisting of what we call a chief, a blue chief with stars on it. And go to the next slide, please. You can see the arms of Logan and the arms of Douglas after that expedition with Bruce's heart, when the heart has been added to both sets of arms as an ornamentation of honour. And that's another thing that led me to think that the Wresselry branch was a junior branch to the Ilk branch, the Logans of Logan, who were descended from, or closely related to, at least one of those knights who had been on that journey to Spain. Next slide, please. Another book that was seminal in my research into the chiefs was the protocol book of Gavin Ross. Now, a protocol book is a thing that lawyers or notaries public, people providing legal services to the general public, would keep a note of all their cases, what was found, and so on. And they can be extremely valuable sources. Now, Gavin Ross happened to be a lawyer that was working in Ayrshire in the 16th century, in the 1500s. And he's in his protocol book, which thankfully for us was transcribed many years ago and published by one of the learned societies, I think the Scottish Record Society probably. That contains many references to Logans. And from that book, it's absolutely clear that the Logans of that ilk were a prominent family in Ayrshire at the same time as the Logans of Wresselrig were a prominent family in Midlothian or Edinburgh. So the two families were running parallel. Next slide, please. Now, here's some simple genealogy. I can't really read that one, it's too far away from me, so I'm just going to turn around for a minute. You can see we've traced a line from Alexander in about 1517 down through various Georges. The important thing for us is the George Logan of that ilk at the bottom left was the one who registered the arms, and he had 3 brothers, and he also had an uncle. And we know that from various documents which I'll flick through. Next slide, please. And this is back looking at George Logan of that ilk and his descendants. You can see that his direct descendants, he had 3 sons, and the first 2 died without inheriting, and the inheritance went to the 3rd son. He in turn had 3 sons. Again, the first 2 died before they could inherit, so again, it went to the 3rd son. And unfortunately for us Logans, that 3rd son, Hugh Logan, widely known in Scotland as the witty Laird of Logan, was a bit of a wastrel, a well-known wit, a prominent person in sort of bothy society in Ayrshire in the late 18th century, and effectively he lost all the family fortune and ended up dying in debt, leaving behind 3 illegitimate children. He never married, and his sister supervised the winding up of the estate, and that was the end of the line of the Logans of that ilk as we know it. Although Sean, my successor in the genealogy role, has found a descendant of the last Logan of that ilk's sister living in Australia, and he may tell us about that later. So the line of Logans of that ilk hasn't actually died out, they're just not called Logan anymore, which is rather unfortunate. But if you then go back and you look at the one who registered arms, you look at his 3 brothers, we've done some further research on them. Next slide, please. And sorry, that's a last reference to the witty Laird of Logan. There is a book published called The Laird of Logan, which has lots of his aphorisms and sayings, and it was published in the 19th century. But it's not of any, it's a sentimental value to us Logans, but it's not of any real use, as it doesn't give any clues as to who might be our new chief. Next slide, please. This is a thing called an inquisitione tutela. That's what happens when a minor inherits land and titles. The court is called to appoint a ward to look after him. In a nutshell, this document, which is still in the National Record Office, shows that when George Logan of that ilk inherited, he was a minor, so he was made a ward of his uncle. And it also mentions in the document that the inheritance was secure anyway because he had 3 brothers. So in that one document, it shows us that there was an uncle of the last of the Logan of that Hilt line and 3 brothers. Next slide. And this is what do you call it, a deed that I came across in the Registry of Deeds. And that, again, was the 3 brothers of George Logan of that Hilt making some financial arrangement. But again, it names all the 3 brothers, so we know definitely that they existed. Next slide, please. The eldest of the 3 brothers, or we assume he's eldest, William, he was a lawyer in Edinburgh, and he did have 3 children, 2 daughters and in fact 4 children, 2 daughters and a son by his wife, and another son by somebody whom we don't know, but to whom he was never married. Unfortunately, his legitimate son died as an infant, and he didn't produce any more legitimate heirs, so that was a close shot. So then we looked at the next one. Next slide, please. The next of the brothers was Alan, who was also a lawyer in Edinburgh, and he had, there's more promise. Anyway, I won't go into the detail, but to cut it short, we know that there were at least 3 grandchildren of his, at least 3, possibly 6. It's very difficult to tell because there are lots of Logans in Ayrshire and lots of them with the names John, James, Charles, and that's the danger in genealogy, confusing 2 people with the same name. So, but the Lord Lion, whenever we get to the stage that we can petition for it has to be provable. So we know that definitely know that 3 grandsons exist. What we haven't been able to find out is any descendants from them. I've had a look, and there are so many Logans in the registers at that period that it's almost impossible to tell. But I'm sure my succession office will have a really good go at it, and the commander to be the commander when he's in office will also work at it. Somewhere out there must be a Logan who is descended from that lot, I think, highly likely. Next slide, please. This one is just wrapping up that. So what we basically need is to find a chain of descent from one of those loose ends, either the uncle or the 3 brothers of the last Logan of that Hilt to register arms, and he would then be the chief of name and arms. And that, I think, is where I would like to cast the net as wide as possible and say this is something that everybody can help in. Many of you have done a lot of work on family trees and genealogy, and most of us start by working back from the present. I was trying to work down from the past, and getting the 2 to meet is the difficult bit. So I think that if you're interested, keep working on your own family tree, and somewhere we will find a connection to the last Logan of that Hilt. I think that's the end, is it? One last slide? Oh yes, one last slide. Just to affirm that we're all one family. It doesn't really matter whether you're related to the Logan of that Hilt or not. If you're proud to call yourself Logan. And incidentally, my father, despite the fact that he later became the chief of a different clan, must have been very proud of the Logans, because he took me out when I was 15 and bought me this Logan kilt, and it stood me in good stead for the next 65 years. And with that, I'll hand you back to Kenneth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. All right, now I don't know if you noticed in those documents, but they made their S's look like an F for some reason back then. Not very helpful. But, you know, I think Sean and I are making our way through as best we can. Now, as we transition into the next segment of our convention today, I do want to invite up Ross McEwen to give mention to our supporters abroad And he's been excellent, really connecting us as Logans to the other leadership across the globe. And so we're thankful that he is here today. So please, Ross.
Good morning, Macanva. I'm much louder than Mr. Marchbanks, I think. Falchigu Alapa, welcome to Scotland. Just to start, I'm from Inverness, so I don't have nearly as cool an accent as Colin Russell does. He's from a different part of Scotland, but Invernessians, we tend to talk very quickly, so if you don't understand anything, that's my fault, not yours. I'm thrilled to be here. During COVID, I actually lived in Wrestelrig, and I remember sending Mr. Stephen Logan a video of what's left of the castle there during a very snowy Scottish winter, although you guys have brought the sunshine, so you can't leave, please. We usually have to Google the sunshine to know what it looks like. So my principal reason for being so thrilled to be here, and not just because it's a day off on a Friday, but in Clan McEwen, we have just reinstated our chiefship after 575 years. It was 1475. It's taken a while to get the band back together, so to speak. But we did it via family convention, the process which you're embarking on today. I'm a heraldic nerd, to put it mildly, especially in the clan space, and the family convention is a wonderful, important cultural and legal mechanism, a Celtic custom wrapped in a modern moment, and I think you should all be very proud, and I'm sure you are, to reach this stage. There are other families and clans around the world right now who are attempting what you are doing and have thus far failed to get to this stage through many, many different reasons. So this is a huge day for the history of your name, regardless of where you are from in the world. Heritage, culture and engagement around the world is very important. You'll notice that Scottish accents might be a rarity over your weekend. Here in Scotland, we have a slightly different relationship with our clans and families. And I always say that if we could inherit some of your enthusiasm around the world and in turn maybe give some of the story, I think this culture here would be much healthier. When your ancestors left, or maybe were invited to leave, the Scottish story kept going, and it wasn't always a happy one. So I would also ask that when you're here, and the pride that you have in Scotland and your tartans and your names and your heraldry, to not be in any way muted or confused that you maybe don't see the same passion here. That's our problem here in Scotland, and it's one that I hope we're working through, and initiatives like this certainly help. One more moment before I go into some letters that I brought. The Clan McEwen chiefship search started in around 1953. My late grandfather was doing almost the exact same job as I ended up doing for the late grandfather of our now chief. So this is a long-term aim for lots of families, but the finish line is reachable. And on the 20th of March this year, the Lord Lion signed a warrant recognising the chief of the name and arms of McEwen, as I said, our first one since 1475. I'm just going to read a small excerpt of a letter from Sir John Roderick Hugh McEwen of Marchmont and Bardrocket, who is our new chief, who reads, to the Commander of Logan, or Commander-elect I should say at this moment, Sir, being desirous to maintain without interruption the relations of friendship and good understanding which happily subsist between our two ancient names, it gives me pleasure to send on behalf of Clan McEwen our very best wishes to you, your team, and Logans from around the world gathering in Scotland to make this historic occasion of the first Logan Family Convention. Your quest to reinstate your chiefship is a noble one, and having recently reached the successful finish line of our own efforts to bring our own clan's chiefship alive again, it is my wish to make available to you any materials, advice or guidance that we may have devised or acquired during our chiefship work to assist you in those efforts. I wish a successful, enjoyable and historic family convention for the global family of Logan. Now, the important thing for me here is that what worked for us might not work for you, and that goes down to our history. We're looking at different parts of Scotland, different genealogy lines, but whatever we have to offer Logan, Sir John has directed me in black and white to make available to you, and it's certainly my sincere hope that Logan will take advantage of that, even if you find it's no use to you now. Our books and our learning is wide open. I also have the great pleasure to act as sort of a chief's postie or postal worker today, and I have with me a letter drafted by Dr. Robert Curry, commander of the name of Curry, wishing Logan well, and also the final line is to please consider Curry's at your service as you navigate the next steps of this wonderful and historic journey. Incidentally, Curry have never had a chief, and therefore they potentially could be embarking on their first chief ever. But Dr. Curry is actually based in the United States and is a great example for American-based clans to engage with Scotland. And the final of the three letters that I'm amazed I haven't lost on the way here comes from Rupert Christopher Irving of Bonshaw. He's the chief of the Border Irvings, which is a very, very old Scottish family, long predates Robert the Bruce. And he's written 2 pages, he's that enthusiastic. But he's also wishing Logan well, and again wishing to build a bridge of dialogue and friendship with Logan. Scottish clan culture, the age of swords and shields might just about be over, but the more that we can help each other, the shared learning that we can devise and share and progress, the better this whole culture will be in America, Australia, Canada, and hopefully here in Scotland as well. And my final comment, which is a remark that our supervising officer made to us during all of our conventions, is that heraldry is the last law standing in terms of clan recognition by the Crown. Now, I have a coat of arms registered in Scotland, as does Colin Russell. Of course, Madam Pauline Hunter does as well. And Mr. Logan, Stephen Logan, there's a lot of Mr. Logans here, has a coat of arms from Canada. Heraldry is a big deal here. It's a legal process. It's not just a hobby. It's a very important part of our culture and our history and our present time. So those of you in the room or watching at home who do have provable Scottish ancestry and carry the name Logan, please do consider approaching, and your clan society officers will be able to help, and will certainly help however we can. Please consider petitioning for a coat of arms from the Lord Lion. The more living Logan armigers, that is those with a legal coat of arms in Scotland, the better the health of Logan on the pages of Scotland's records will be. And again, there's many people in the room who can advise on that, but it's certainly good fun. Congratulations. I'm still kind of recovering from our convention, our final convention last year, but this is such a thrill. It's important for Scottish culture, of course for Logan's, but for the clan culture, and you are being watched and cheered on by many, many clans, chiefs, officers around the world. Thank you for listening to me for a few minutes, and I'll pass these 3 letters of greetings to Caleb just now. Congratulations, Logan. This is just the start.
Thank you so much, Ross. Like I said, he's really been instrumental in expanding our connections all over the place. And, you know, I think one thing that stands out to me just as a person who maybe doesn't always have the most confidence in himself is that we have this support behind us, and that we are here today to not necessarily, we don't need to make a big deal out of ourselves, but at the same time, it's an important step. We're cementing our legacy, and that is important and deserves to be celebrated and given its time of day, which I often do not do. So, with that, I will be introducing our Commander-elect, Kevin Logan. For all of you who watched our Meet the Nominees event, this might sound a little familiar, but in case you forgot some background on him, he was born and educated in rural Missouri and earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from the University of Missouri in 1993. Now, as you heard earlier, James Logan is an electrical engineer, my dad's a mechanical engineer, so we seem to have a lot of engineers in the Logan family. I kind of like that. Sorry, just my bias. My brother's an electrical engineer as well, so there's that. Kevin pursued a successful career in the automotive industry, working as a controls and systems expert for major manufacturers like GM, Ford, and Toyota. Kevin also helped pioneer the electrification of the modern consumer vehicle and earned 9 patents in the USA and 2 in Europe. His involvement in Clan Logan comes from his love of Scottish culture and history. Heraldry especially excites him, and he's actually building a library of books and other items that align with these interests. So his favorite book in the library up to now is his 1959 copy of Simple Heraldry, cheerfully illustrated by Ian Moncrief and Don Pottinger. Now, I may have made this remark before, but I would not want to see Simple Heraldry that's not cheerfully illustrated. But Kevin's main passion has always been for his family, and he's actually the proud father to 5 children, a stepdaughter, and 5 grandchildren. He lives with his wife Lisa in rural Michigan, and his family figures prominently in the symbols of his recently assumed arms, most especially in his motto, Familia Cor Hominis, which is Latin for family is the heart of the man. And with that, I welcome up Kevin Logan.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Can you go ahead and advance to the next slide? So, I know there's a lot of Gallic speakers here today. I am not one of them, so I'm not going to attempt that. Instead, I will say thank you all for coming, and in my native language, morning, y'all. Glad you could make it. So, I do want to start out by thanking, there's a large number of people, and don't feel like I don't see you if I don't thank you here. There's just been a lot of people and doing a lot of things. This was a huge work on everybody's part. Is that my beeping? Okay, just checking. Okay. I'd like to begin by thanking our Heavenly Father, especially as Colin opened and we had a very nice prayer. I am really grateful that he has blessed us all with such good weather, with such good health, and that everyone has been able to travel here safely to meet with us. I am very grateful to him for that, and I pray that he continues to bless us all. Even if he can't get the weather, hopefully the health will maintain and we'll enjoy good travels here in Scotland and on our way home. So, the next people I would like to thank is the board members who helped put all this together for us. Linda Street Ely, Tricia Logan Locke, and Joanne Logan. Big round of applause for them. Everything that you've enjoyed the last few days and will enjoy this evening at dinner and tonight, and especially on the tours tomorrow, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to them for making all of it happen. It was weekly meetings, daily phone calls, hourly text messages, and everything in between. So thank you very much, ladies, for all the work and effort that you put into this. The next 2 people I would like to thank, oh yeah, please go ahead, clap. The next 2 people I would like to thank, and Caleb mentioned this sort of briefly in his, is Stephen Logan of Canada and Robert Logan of Scotland. The 2 of them were fantastic competitors to be nominee for the commander of Clan Logan. They were excellent to work with. I think all of you were really impressed, as was I, when we had our Meet the Commanders event, with the knowledge, the passion, and the general background of knowledge that these guys possess, and most especially their love for their family and their Scottish roots. So they were fantastic competitors, and I thank you both very much for the kind words they offered to me the other day. So thank you, guys. And then I definitely want to thank all of you for going through the effort. I know there was a lot of struggles on people's parts, a lot of issues in, just how many hours in the air? 30 hours for you to get here? Yeah. 32 hours in the air. So if we were giving away awards, which maybe we should have thought of that, longest distance traveled, Jeff Logan from New Zealand, thank you very much for all the effort you put in. And again, to all of you, I know flights were delayed, flights were late, seats were uncomfortable. from what I was told. So thank you for putting up with all of that, and thank you for joining us in so many of the activities this week. The opportunity to go to St. Margaret's yesterday and then to the Logan's Rest pub afterwards. What a fantastic opportunity to get to meet all of you, get to hear a great deal about our history. That was a surprise to me that the ladies were able to speak with such knowledge on the Logans of Restalrig while we were there. What a fantastic opportunity, and it was great getting to meet all of you there. And then personally, I obviously want to thank my family. My middle son is here with his wife, Holly, today. They have traveled from Tennessee. They speak the same language I do, so if you need an interpreter, let me know, and I will do that. And then, of course, my beautiful wife, who she's probably just about tired of hearing about Logan history. Right on that edge. But she has been so supportive through all of this, and most of you won't realize this, but the blogs that I write, the letters that go out, I have someone who supervises me so that I sound as good as I do when the letters go out, and I can't thank her enough for the love and the support and sticking with me through all of this, so thank you for that. A couple of other gentlemen that I want to thank are the two men on my left over here, John Logan Marchbanks and James Logan. I really was happy when they accepted the opportunity to speak today, and it was interesting because I had asked them, and then suddenly I was being asked by other people, are they going to speak while we're there? And so it was good, it was fortunate, and we really appreciate you guys. And from a personal perspective, I appreciate these gentlemen more than words can express. John has led the way in the job that I am now taking on, with the blessing of the Lion's office, that I will be taking on to find the heir to the chiefship of the name Logan. If it weren't for John's tireless work in the archives, we still would be probably at square one trying to figure out how the Logans of Restalrig became the Logans of that ilk. So we owe you a debt we can't repay, but please know that we thank you greatly for all of your effort. And then James Logan, who's sitting just to his right, there wouldn't be the search for the chief at this point if it weren't for James Logan. Although Vernon started the society, he took ill fairly early on in the setting up of the society, and James took over as vice president, as he mentioned. And when Vernon took ill, James began to do all of the work of organizing and trying to keep people together. And in 2020, I don't know if all of you know this or not, there was this worldwide issue, and it locked a few of us down in our homes, and James and I had many conversations about, well, what do we do now? We will lose the membership growth that we were starting to see in 2018, 2019, and he and I hit upon the idea of having Zoom conferences, like a lot of other people did, which not like we're brilliant, it was a common thing. But James and I used it, and our first one was actually John Marchbank's presentation on where he was at in finding the chief. And I keep looking out at Jeff back here, because every time we have a Zoom meeting, even though it's, 4 o'clock in the morning for you a lot of the time? 5 o'clock, he is always on there. And what's funny, and I don't know if you know this, I probably should have mentioned this to you before, when you're sitting in front of your camera, you have a light in your room, right behind your head. You have this beautiful halo around you. I'm not sure what that says, I just wanted to let you know it's there. But anyway, we owe James a huge debt of thanks for being able to keep the society together and grow it through the hard times of the lockdowns and what's come from there. And I don't know what else to say about you two gentlemen that I haven't said, other than I thank you both very, very much for everything you've done for us. And it's funny too, every time I thank them like that in some other small way, I get the same response. They don't look like they want the accolades. And I cannot think of two better leaders than in their humble servant nature. So I'll stop thanking you. So next slide, please. I was trying to put together a good presentation for all of you, but I could see the presentations that were before me were a little lengthy, and I wanted you to be able to take part in all of that because there was great information, and I think you all appreciate the effort that's gone on. So I'm going to keep mine relatively brief here, and today I wanted to talk on the history and the making aspect of what we're doing here today. As some people mentioned, since the Ragman Roll of 1296, we have certain knowledge of Logans living in Scotland. And since the Crusade of the Heart of the Bruce in 1330, we have known of the existence of brave and noble Logans serving their king. Since 1517, Alexander Logan signing a conveyance of heritable property to someone named Patrick Logan of that ilk, we know that Logans of that ilk have existed in Scotland since that time. And then our armiger, whose arms you see wonderfully illustrated by Philip Tibbets, who is another herald of the Lord Lion, he did that wonderful illustration for us. That is the registered arms of George Logan of that ilk that first appeared in the first volume of the Arms of Scotland in 1672. Moving a little bit forward in time from there in a historical perspective, we move all the way down to the last chief of the line, and with the death of Hugh Logan in 1802, that pretty much closed the chapter on the Logans of that ilk for 200 plus years. Now, in 1912, two important things happened, and one is more important to me probably than the other, but the provost of Partick, he formed the Clan Logan Society International, and unfortunately, as John mentioned, that became, or I think James mentioned it as well, that became a very short chapter in the Logans of Scotland's history as two consecutive world wars decimated the population and left the society non-functional. The other thing that happened in that year, and this occurred to me while John was speaking, was that in 1912, my grandfather, Kenneth Alden Logan, was born. And I will get back to why that's important in just a minute. I mean, obviously it's important to me. You'll get that part. In 1939, Major Logan Hume published his book, The History of the Logan Family, and although we have found errors in it, we all realize the struggles he had to have gone through to try and amass such a large volume of information. And if you don't have a copy or you have never seen it, reach out to me and I will find a way to make a copy available to you. It may just be a simple photocopy, but I have managed, if you keep your eye on the right areas, I got an original publishing of it about a year and a half ago, and the person I bought it from said, "Oh yeah, we got that from some publisher's sale. There was a crate of books completely unopened, and it was filled with books just like that." And I'm like, "Really? Books? You have more?" No, I don't know what happened to them. But so I do have a copy of that book, and that became a guiding point, and I think the biggest thing we can say about that is that he let us know that the Logans were deeply connected to Scotland, to Scottish history, and that there were many of us. There wasn't just the Logans of that ilk. There were many branches, the Logans of Knockshinnagh, for example. I mean, when I drive around Scotland, I don't know how many of you know this, but the plant badge of Logan is the gers or fors, which is that yellow flower that you see on all of the hills as you drive around here. And my wife and I kept noticing how much of it we've seen on Stephen's cap there. Yeah. We did not realize just how prevalent it was here in Scotland, and I got to thinking about how many Logans there have been in so many different regions of Scotland. It's no wonder they selected the plant badge to be the firs, that common flower that you see dotting the hillsides everywhere, along with its little thorn. So there you go. Take that for what you will. And then moving forward in 2002, Vernon reformed the society and he began a new chapter for Clan Logan. In roughly 2010-ish, John Marchbanks took over the reins of looking for the chief, so yet another historical turning point, because that's when we really started to make solid progress in understanding how the Logans of that ilk fit in there. In 2018, like I said, James assumed leadership of the society and really kept it up and going and started bringing us all together globally. Then in 2024, shortly after I became president, I will tell you, I began to panic just a little bit because in 2018, we almost thought we had found a provable heir. Turned out not to be the case, and so we started again with a genealogist, and then COVID happened. And then lots of bad things happened. We couldn't access records. People took ill. Unfortunately, some people passed away. And when we started coming out of it, then James unfortunately took ill as well. And I started thinking, we have to get going on this work. And so I started talking with James and John and the members of the board, and we decided that the best path forward for us at that time was to petition the Lord Lion for a public supervised convention so that people would know that we were interested in finding this person and that we could name a commander to represent the clan and to officially do that work. And I must say, it is already paying off. If you look at the notable people who are here and the letters that Ross brought from so many of them, that's just a small portion of what I've been receiving by email, messages, phone calls. Thanks, Ross, for giving out my phone number. Appreciate it. And so we have suddenly burst onto a much, maybe not a global stage, but it certainly feels that way with the number of people who are reaching out to me and to other people in the clan and society wanting to get more involved. So here in 2025, this is where we're at now, and this is where my grandfather, being born in 1912, becomes a little bit personal and becomes intertwined in this story. In my grandfather's little cubby office in his living room, he was a farmer, but he had a small office in his living room. Above his desk hung a coat of arms, and it looked very much like the chiefly coat of arms, except, as John pointed out, the passion nails were black in color. I vividly remember sitting there anytime I would go to visit my grandfather, and I would daydream about these Logan Knights that my grandfather had told me about, and how they carried the heart of Robert the Bruce, and all of the other stories that my grandfather had to tell, that we had a castle in Scotland, and so many of these things. And that man really ignited in me my passion for my family. Not just he was a great grandfather, the best you could ever ask for. And so hopefully I've been as good a father as he was a grandfather. And that passion for his whole family is really what has brought me here today. I am so humbled and so grateful to be representing all of you and starting this new chapter, this historic moment in our family by working with the Lion's office and having our supervised convention. And it means the world to me that I have so much support from all of you coming behind me. I thank you all very much. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the right slide. Sorry. And so my job, with the approval of the Lion's office, will be to look for the rightful heir to the coat of arms that you see displayed up there. And I am really grateful for all of you giving me the opportunity to do so. It's humbling, and as I was talking to Madam Pauline earlier, I really don't think it's hit me yet, or I would be scared and you probably wouldn't see me up here. So, so thank you all. Next slide, please. And this made me so happy, and I hope all of you realize the historic nature of this. When Philip Tibbetts was working with me to create the coat of arms, his emblazonment of the arms of George Logan of that ilk, he asked me if it was all right if he could make up another small banner. And I said, sure, I don't mind. You're doing the art work for us, but he didn't tell me why. And unbeknownst to me, he had to travel through Ayrshire on, I'm losing track of days, I think it was Wednesday. and he sent me a picture of the arms of a Logan of that ilk, raised once again in Ayrshire. And so that, to me, is the symbol of why we are all here this weekend, is to reignite our passion and the passion of our kinsmen for our family, and to help us find the rightful heir to those arms. So with that, we start a new chapter. Thank you all for being here. I love each and every one of you. If I haven't got to shake your hand yet, please come up to me this afternoon or this evening. I look forward to meeting all of you. Thank you very much, and Hoc Majorum Virtus.
Thank you, Kevin. And, just to build off of what he was saying about the Logans, having a place among the people, no matter where they were, they can see that furs, or however you want to call it. And that's one thing that I've noticed as I've looked into our history, as in my brief time as heritage officer up to now. There weren't necessarily a bunch of famous people. We weren't the kings or queens or anything like that, but at the same time, we were part of the broader public, making Scotland run the way it should. And if you don't know, Scotland is a pretty cool country. One of my favorite facts of the Scottish people, their influence on the world, is that it was a Scotsman who invented the Bank of England. But at this time, we'll take the formal counting of the vote of affirmation. So if you all have your paper accessible, you can make your selection there. And Linda, are you? Okay, and they can be delivered to Linda. And then you will count how that turns out. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that all to finish, we will be having a presentation by Sean. And we were talking about limbs earlier. I think if I were the genealogist, I might just call myself the limb master. Seems cooler. So Sean has been our genealogist, like John mentioned, taking over for him. He's really got a passion for the work, and it's been really great just in my ability to work with him, seeing what he's able to uncover. And I love, we just keep exchanging further sources with each other, so hopefully we'll get to where we need to be someday. And with, we're being here to support Kevin. So he's already authored many writings on the Logans of that ilk, especially focusing on the chiefly line. And with that large task, he also has been helping members of the Clan Logan Society International trace back their ancestors, seeing, helping them get a leg up in terms of sorting out their own genealogy. Even if they aren't experts, he can make them one. Sean recently retired from a rewarding career as a procurement leader for IBM and later BP. He is an avid runner and recently completed a marathon to help raise funds for this convention. I actually ran a marathon a few months back, and I should have had the idea to raise money for this, but unfortunately I did not. So Sean is a better man than I. With that, I welcome him up here.
Thank you. All right, so I think I'm standing between getting the votes counted and lunch and stuff like that. So I'm going to try and be efficient, but I do have a few semi-important things at least to chat about. Before I start, I know you've probably had too many thanks, but I don't thank too many times. Thank you, John, for all of the work you did. I mean, the foundation I'm standing on to do the work and everything I published would have been completely impossible if it wasn't for the work with John and, of course, Peter, who I never had the pleasure to meet. So thank you for that. Before I get into my planned presentation, I just want to encourage people, when we're all done up here speaking, come up to these tables. There's some really cool stuff up here. So we've talked about the Logan Hume book. This is a, mine's a photocopy, so this is an actual copy. And on this book, there is a sword. And our very own John C. Logan possesses the sword and was kind enough to bring it here. It's really cool. Come take a look at it. We got a little bit of Highland history here. So very much worth a look. We also have, speaking of the Highlands, which I think is something that most of us need to learn more about, probably know a little bit too little about. Cindy Sweet did a great job putting together the definitive volume of who they are. Flip through this. There's a couple great org charts. Yeah, I am retired. I apologize. A couple great family trees on here that will walk you through who they were. And then we've got, if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about the clan costumes, we've got this great book here. So, John, thank you for bringing that. And then we have, and I don't have my glasses on, I apologize, but we have some poems, if I understand correctly, and I'm going to keep one of those books for myself. So, so I recommend that you get that.
I don't want to take any homes.
So the sword and the stuff should stay here. I understand you can take the poem books home, though. Yes. So, so if it's this color, you can take it home. Okay, next slide, please. So, ooh, that's hard to read. So the agenda. I want to, as we talk a bit about, fortunately, having a commander, or hopefully having a commander, one of our jobs is to find the chief. And I want to talk a little bit about what does proof mean. So if we talk about you got to have proof and you got to be able to go through a court, how do you do that? I'm then going to look forward a bit to what is the future of genealogy and where would I like to take this into the future. So next slide. So, yes, I cannot read that. I see why people were turning around. So fortunately for us, there is a genealogical standard. So there is a general expectation. It's been published. It's been accepted. What do you need to do? So the first thing you need to do is demonstrate that you've done a reasonably exhaustive search, and that when you do that, you're going to create some statements of fact. And when you put together those statements of fact, that they're properly cited. That way, someone someday could go through and say, well, why the heck did someone say that? Why did they do that? Maybe there's some new information that we got, and we're saying, well, that can't be true. And you look at it, you say, well, with the information they had, it was true then, but now we have some new information and we have a new reality. You want to make sure that the evidence you've pulled together is reasonable, it's been done skillfully and properly interpreted. Again, I go back to the thanks. Some of those documents are really hard to read. Caleb talked about that. So has it been properly transcribed? But even more important to that, and this is where I find a lot of the times we fall down when we put together genealogies. So there's all these Williams and Johns and whatnot walking around. Are we talking about the right William Logan? Are we talking about the right George Logan or James Logan? Well, what have you put together? What have you written down and documented that has clearly stated, as we talked about those citations, why I'm saying this William is the father of this James? And that's the things that I've been working lately, helping people with. If they come to me with their family tree, and for members of the society, we support you with putting together projects and help you make sure your tree is properly sourced and put together. That will then help you make sure you can say with a degree of confidence, I know the line. It's really clear, and it's well cited, it's well documented. Contradictory evidence, number one issue people have. They ignore it. Well, this doesn't fit what I think, so let me just put it over here and pretend it doesn't exist. Please, please don't do that. I will tell you, one of the things I do, it's on WikiTree, on our website and all of that, I will call out and say, as a research note, I believe this is correct, but this thing argues against it. And future researchers, maybe myself, maybe others, should really look at it, because this thing that argues against it could actually mean I'm wrong. But this is why I think I'm correct, and this is why I'm not using this piece of information. You should use it in the future. So that's one way to resolve it, or the other way to do it is you can actually say, look, other people have seen this, but it's really clear this is wrong, and this is the 4 reasons why. And then finally, you have a very well-written, or at least it is clear written conclusion that anyone could read, whether they're a genealogist or not, and come to that conclusion. If we can do those 5 things, we can then potentially prove that one of you in this room, or virtually joining us, is the heir to the chieftain. But to do that, we need to do those 5 things. Next slide, please. So, to help with that, I've been working for the last several months to put together a website, a genealogy website, that I am going to ask everyone who is a society member to please send me an email, genealogist@clanlogansociety.org, and get on it. Take a look at it. Play with it. The goal of this website is to build upon the work done by Pre-1800 Logan, build on all the work that has been done by all of you, and to create a single site where people can go on and say, how do I relate to these other Logans? My goal is to use a combination of genealogy and DNA, so that people could look at that and say, for example, Kevin and I, we relate somewhere around 30,000 BCE because his ancestors were Vikings, and they went this way when my ancestors went that way. And but there's other people that we are a little closer related. Sometimes it's 1500, sometimes it's somewhere else, but you start to get a view, and that's where the limbs, and I like the title, Limb Master, that's where the limbs can really help you figure that out. So basically I have this in a sort of a 2-step process. Step 2 obviously is very much conceptual now, but I just wanted to open my brain for a second and say, step 1 is to have a tree that you can kind of manually search. So you go in and say, I've got Kevin, I've got Sean, and then it'll kind of draw you a little thing, and you've got to do some work, and you might have to say, hey, Sean Logan, can you help me read what this means? I don't understand it, and I'll answer those questions. And that, frankly, is going to be step 1. Hopefully, as AI becomes more powerful, cheaper, easier to install, we could put it in there and you could say, and I've seen other clans that have done this, I've been on their site, and they say, hey, how does Sean and Linda relate? And it can actually give you more of a narrative, something that's a bit easier to understand, something you can zoom in and out of. It also will become the repository that I'm going to try and put together of every unattached Logan out there. So, for example, and someone in here might already know, this book was written by James Logan. Who is this James Logan? Some people might know, I don't know. I've not looked at it. That's the only reason I don't know at this point. So I want to put him in there, and that tells me someday I need to do some research on that James Logan. Next slide. Okay, we talked about the limbs. This is the Y-DNA descent tree. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I'm integrating that into the website as much as I possibly can. If you're wondering what the heck is this is all based on Y-DNA. If you want to talk to me about it tonight over a beer, whiskey, whatever it is, I will talk your head off on it. Real simple. It's based on major haplogroups. So through Y-DNA, they can say that people are haplogroup A, B, C, D. Everyone who's in a numbered limb is part of R. Everyone who's not in a number but in a letter is from a very different haplogroup, and therefore we meet much further back. But that is what I'm integrating in there. And I'm going to give a little bit of demonstration in a minute. We don't have online, so I'm not going to be clicking and all that. We're going to do this the old-fashioned way. Next slide. Okay. Please join the website. If you say, but Sean, I'm not a member of the society. Well, join the society. And then join the website. If you're not a Logan and you're a special guest, like Ross, you want to get on there, you just write me and you can get onto it. But this is what you're going to see. So we've started putting it together, and in there it'll talk a little bit about, we did trivia on the Chiefs, so it'll tell you a little bit, exploring who is this George Logan who registered arms. Who is, let's learn a little bit more about Hugh Logan of that ilk, who was our last chief. But the important thing in there is the top upper left. So you go in there and you click search, and you say, hey, I want to know more about Jeff Logan, whose tree's not on there yet, but it will be someday, I hope. And you could type in his name, and you could see who his ancestors were. And then you can see how close am I to them. Next slide. So to get there and to be able to put this together, we need your help. John was very correct earlier. I guess we think a lot alike, because he didn't steal the line, because I didn't actually tell it to him, but we need to cast a wide net. Yeah, I'm going to work hard. I'm retired. I'm going to put in the hours, but there is no way I will be able to find an heir on my own. If I do it on my own, I'm going to fail. The only way I'm going to be able to do this is if we work together. So, I want you to share your trees with me. It's going to take me a while, maybe even a couple of years to get all your all's trees in there, right? By the way, if you want to volunteer to help, I'll take that too. But share your trees with me. If you have not done a Y-DNA test, please do it. Now, you have to be a male, so if you're a female and you're like, I really would like to do a Y-DNA test, find a cousin. But what's important about this is Y-DNA is really important because it follows a surname. So if your father was a Logan, your grandfather was a Logan, you do the Y-DNA test, and it's going to go right down that line of Logan. If your mother was a Logan, well, then you got to find a cousin whose father, who is a male, whose father was a Logan. But the more we put that together, the clearer those limbs are going to become. So we had someone recently do a test, and we got a brand new Logan haplogroup out of it. We got much more clarity about how are certain groups of Logans more closely related to each other. It's not cheap, so it is voluntary, but if you're interested, big Y-DNA test, write me, I will help you make sure you join the DNA project. Next slide. Okay, so, just in case, this was just in case we didn't have Wi-Fi. So anyways, we don't have Wi-Fi. So as I said, when we put this site together, and I told you I was going to kind of merge genealogy and DNA, this is one that I put together. So we've got Linda, our own very own Linda, and then Ed, who unfortunately wasn't able to be with us today, but another member of the board. And if you put in their two names, so if you put in Linda and then you say relates, and you say how does Linda and Ed relate to each other, you can see that they share a common 6th great-grandfather. And they go up the line, and it's John Logan from 1720 something. My eyes aren't what they used to be. Next slide, please. Continue with the just in case slide, since we're not going to do this in the real way. So what if you want to know how, one of the first people I did this project for was Sherry Trumbull. How is Linda and Sherry related to each other? Well, they're in different limbs, and they connect at 3050 BC. And the way we did that, and I know it's not easy to read because this text is small, but I put in various different groups of people, and it all comes together on a common ancestor from 3500 BC for that specific haplogroup. And I'm working to try and give them better names, and I will look for your input as you do that. You may not be able to see that, so you may not be able to give me input today, no problem. But in the future, I would like your input. I'm trying to call them out as Highland ancestors, Celtic ancestors, and stuff like that. Is that my last slide? And that's my last slide. So please send me your trees, do your Y testing, play around with the website, give me your feedback, and thank you all very much.
Can Can you all hear me? All right, sorry. With my voice, I feel like no one, I'm not making any noise. But anyways, so the vote, both online and in person, has been counted. So at this time, I'd like to formally acknowledge Kevin as the nominee who will be submitted to the Lord Lion for confirmation as our commander.
It's not my intention to prolong this any longer than we need to, rather than just to congratulate Kevin on his appointment by yourselves as the candidate whose name will go forward to the Lord Lion for approval as the new, or the first ever commander of Clan Logan. I offer you my personal congratulations, Kevin, on that. This morning has been, for me, it's been a wonderful experience, and I'm quite sure for yourselves it's been a wonderful experience. And I just want to leave you with these few words, which are your words, not my words. I don't know who wrote them, but they're extremely fitting for this moment in time. And I have to move here. O Logans, come by loch and glen, raise high the banner once again. From kin and kin, we stand aligned. A clan commander, at last, we've found. The next part of the process is I will submit my report to the Lord Lion in the next couple of weeks, and he will review the report, and then if he approves the nomination, you will be notified in due time. It may take a week or two, knowing how Lion Office works, and I know that when they appointed a chief, it took some time, Ross, didn't it? Yes. It took some time for the office to go through the paperwork. But I can assure you, I will do my best to make sure it's not months, but only weeks. Thank you.
All right, well, that is all we have for now. So it looks like they've got lunch set up back there for those who have dietary restrictions. Everything should be labeled. And feel free to take photographs. You can head out and get food, however you want to handle it. We do have 2 shuttles going back to the Dalmahoy, one at 1 p.m. and another at 2 p.m. So make sure that you don't miss those. But with that, thank you all again for coming, and we look forward to seeing you all in the future.